I had a question with what you're alluding to. I heard you talk about like consciousness disidentifying from form.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is coming back and being embodied in it as part of completion or whatever.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to actually like just kind of pick your brain about your personal experience with that kind of phenomena. And yeah, there's another one. You mentioned something about in a YouTube video called Fabric of Reality. You remember you put this out and you said you don't talk about visualization stuff too much.
I remember something called the Fabric of Reality. That's about all.
Well, you talked about...
It's a nice title.
Yeah, it's great.
I'm just joking.
But yeah, what I wanted to ask is just about the dynamic of the awakening, like consciousness coming out from form.
Yeah,
like,
disidentifying with exclusive form. Yeah.
And I was just wondering, like sometimes I get like insomnia or something, I can't sleep, and I'm like, dude, I can't tell if I'm like dead or alive. Like it feels like my body is like an object or something. And I'm not really having like out of body experience, but I'm not really in my body either. And it's like, it's kind of trippy. Like it's just a weird feeling. I'm like, holy shit, it's like, it has like a real kind of undead eerie quality to it almost.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
I do.
So that happened to you?
What's that? Sure.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right, and then the other side of it is like, you get that like real mushy, like connected feeling where you kind of merge with everything. That's kind of like the other side, the embodiment part. Like one is the disidentification from it into that kind of clear, unborn awareness. And then the other one is kind of what you were talking about earlier with kind of being form as well, like being the emptiness, like I am not this body, I am not this mind, but also I am everything.
Yeah, so we go from a sort of conventional, even though we can get it a revelation, it's still kind of a conventional, at least description of emptiness, let's say, right? As nothing, as formless, whether we call it awareness, consciousness, whatever. And there's sort of a conventional form of emptiness because it's not a thing. To see the unity, right, is then even the idea, even the experience of emptiness becomes something somewhat different. It's simply it's nothing more than to see, looking at any form at all, doesn't matter what it is, and realizing, I'll be darned, that right there is emptiness. That's what it is. Whatever the form is, that's emptiness. Now that completely goes beyond any conventional understanding of emptiness, doesn't it? Totally beyond any conventional understanding. But in essence, it's something very, very, very simple. It's simply to see that in one sense, what we might call kind of empty awareness, empty presence, and the whole world of form, you just see that or intuit that as every form. That is the suchness, as they might say in Buddhism. That's the suchness of every form. And then you're sort of outside the bounds of any kind of conventional description. Then what does emptiness mean? You see, does it mean, is it formlessness? Well, no. Is it form? No. It's kind of when they both collapse.
The mind making a distinction between the two starts to just evaporate?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because that's the only thing that can make the distinction, actually, is the mind. And of course, the mind, however, is changing, literally changing the way we perceive things, the way we see them. I don't necessarily mean their color and texture and all that, although it's dictating that too, but I mean at another level, it's dictating how we perceive things in the terms of how we relate to them.
All right. Did you get the computer screen thing where you talked about like seeing different things from other how do you say, like simultaneous existences, like experiencing yourself as that which experiences all phenomena? Does that make sense?
Sure.
That's why I touched on the fabric of reality thing, because I haven't heard, or you're actually like the first living human, kind of living humans, that's ever talked about anything like that. You said you were sitting there and you had like a vision kind of came up, and it was like a grid pattern or something. Mm-hmm. It's like I try not to fixate or become fascinated with that stuff. But it's been happening to me for like 6 years, and I haven't told anybody about it.
Yeah.
And normal like Zen teachers, I've talked to them about it, and you know when you like talk to somebody about something and it just doesn't register with them?
Yeah. Well, in traditional Zen, they're basically taught to discount it.
Yeah, no,
it's just like Makyo, illusion, forget about it, all that stuff, because they want to get your mind focused on something else. But it doesn't, in the end of the day, necessarily, it can be illusion, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it is. It's just basically what in that tradition they tend to just keep everything in a very narrow focus, and almost everything else is kind of discounted.
Yeah. No, I understand it, and there's actually like a value, because I can see how people would become fascinated with kind of stuff.
That's why they do it.
It's like I get that.
Yeah, but the fact that it arises, I can tell you, as someone who's started Zen when I was 19 or 20, there's a lot of that stuff that happens.
Okay.
Just what you're talking about. It's just one of those sort of like subterranean secrets.
Okay. Well, yeah. No.
Nobody wants to talk because it's like, oh, you're not supposed to mix yourself up in phenomena. Yeah. Meanwhile, all these meditators, they are having, a lot of them are having their own sort of subtle phenomenon states, But
Okay.
And the teaching is just like, as far as I see it, I wouldn't say necessarily just discount it. Just like, yeah, that's what happens. You see things. You start to see how moldable perception is, don't you? Mm-hmm. How changeable it is. There's nothing set in stone about the way we perceive anything. Okay. It's all about where we're perceiving from. And some of it can be experienced rather odd. It's odd or it's strange. You don't hear a lot about it, or may not be written about a lot. Mm-hmm. But actually, it's not unusual at all. It's just not often talked about a lot.
Okay, no, that's cool. That's good to hear, because, I was actually worried about it. When it first happened, I was like, oh, whoa, dude, like this isn't...
Right.
They're not talking about this at Suzuki Roshi's little place out in San Francisco.
No, yeah. Like I said, they tend to not talk about it, not because they didn't have those experiences, but because they don't want you to get fixated on them. Okay. But the possible detriment of that is it can leave you thinking that there's something that either shouldn't be happening or something that has no value. Neither one of those conclusions would be true, but that's just one of the dangers that you can be left with when, basically someone's like either doesn't understand it or just says don't pay any attention to it. Mm-hmm. I think it's a little bit more constructive to say, yeah, it's not uncommon at all in doing this kind of stuff. You start to see how incredibly moldable, changeable, the way you perceive anything and everything is. And it all depends on where you're perceiving from. And at some point, that's theory, and at another point, you start to experience it for yourself.
Okay.
Right?
Well, yeah, no,
and it's
you
different.
Experience it for yourself, and then it does kind of get to a point where it's not so relevant.
Yeah.
It's just more of... I didn't come here to ask you about it like from this burning place of desperation, like I need to know the answer to this so I can go home and sleep tonight. It's just like, okay, this has been going on for a while, and then lo and behold, you find something on YouTube by Adyashanti. It's like, oh, okay, cool. So that's what that was. It's not because I ate too much mushrooms in junior high or whatever.
Not necessarily.
Yeah. No, it was kind of cool. I was like, all right. So the little like computer screen with all the little like.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, whoa, all right. So cool.
All right, my friend.
It was a pleasure talking to you.
I'm glad we stuck around for you. Well, timelessness has taken on a whole new meaning tonight. I do appreciate you participating, those that you could. Good evening.